Hey folks, Crimson Blaze here. Welcome to the channel. I have a backpacking trip coming up this weekend in the Superstition Mountains. And I'm going to be out on the trail for 3 days and 2 nights. And I thought this would be a good time for me to talk about a new series that I wanted to develop. And that is some of the prep work that I do for my backpacking trips. So for this video, I'm going to focus on meal prep. So this is all the food that I will take with me on my backpacking trip to the Superstition Mountains. And I'm going to talk about a few things in this video. One, I'm going to talk about inexpensive but tasty meals that will keep you full and save you a bit of money as you're buying food for your backpacking trips. Two, I'm going to talk about how I repackage all of this so it'll save me a little bit of weight and it'll be easier to pack in my backpack. And third, I'm going to talk about how I cook my meals at the campsite because my approach is a little different than most people that I see that are out there backpacking. So I thought I would share with you how I go about doing that. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out how many meals do I need to pack. So I think about my first day and my last day. Because the days in between, I know I need a breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and some snacks. But for that first day, I need to think about when am I going to arrive at the trailhead. So for this trip, my plan is to be at the trailhead around noon, which means I'll have a good breakfast, a good lunch, and I'll only need to pack out a light dinner and some snacks on that first day. You know, my plan is to hike around 8 or 9 miles, so I would want some light snacks to get me to dinner time. Now for my last day, my plan is to be back at the truck before noon. So that means I'll only need to pack out a breakfast and probably some light snacks. Now once I've figured out the number of meals that I need to have for my trip, that's when I begin to organize this, repackage everything, and then begin to organize it by the days on the trail. So this is what that looks like. Now you've probably seen this 100 times in backpacking videos where people will lay out their meals for each day of their backpacking trip. And I do that as well because it really helps me think through the meals that I need for each day and make sure that I'm covered for all the food that I'm going to need on my trip while I'm out there in the backcountry. And you can see how much smaller it is now once I have, repackaged everything, and it's going to fit into my backpack a lot better. So let's start getting into the meals, and let me talk about some of the inexpensive food items that I bring on my trips to save a little bit of money, but are also pretty tasty. First, I'm going to talk about is, I got snacks on day one, and I'll never bring just a big old bag of trail mix. One, it's kind of big and bulky, and it's hard to pack. Two, I generally won't eat a whole bag of trail mix on the trail, and so to me that's just kind of wasting space and weight in my backpack. So what I like to do is I will pack individual bags of my trail mix. And I do this for portion control and also just to have it a little bit easier to pack and to know which days that these snacks are for. So that's what I'll do. So starting off my trip, I'm gonna have some snacks with me. Like I said, I'm not gonna have breakfast or lunch. I've already had that before I hit the trailhead. So my first meal is going to be dinner time. And the dinner that I have here is good old mac and cheese. For a 99-cent box of cheese, you can have a really, tasty and full meal. And for me, I don't like the mac and cheese. I shouldn't say I don't like. I don't take the mac and cheese that has the cheese sauce pack. Those are actually pretty delicious. But it's that cheese sauce pack for like those family size meals. It can get fairly heavy. So what I do is I prefer the powder. And what I do is I'm gonna add some powdered milk to that to help with the cooking. And I'm also going to add some olive oil. So this packet of olive oil is 10 milliliters, and I believe it takes 15 milliliters for a tablespoon. So that's what this recipe needs. So I'll add olive oil and the powdered milk. So I'll boil my water, let my noodles soften up, drain that water, and then I'll put my powdered cheese, my powdered milk, the olive oil, and that is just a really great meal. I really enjoy that. And I'll talk about the the Ziploc bags here in a minute, why I do it for that. For dinner, I also bring these little drink packets. So I love the Sunkissed drink packets. This one is strawberry, because I like to have a flavored drink with my meal at the campsite. So I'll always bring a little tiny drink packet with me for dinner time. And that's it. That's it for day one. Pretty light. I just need really the one meal and some snacks. Day two, let's start off with breakfast. Another inexpensive breakfast that I love, that's really filling and tasty, is oatmeal. So what I'll do is I'll take 2 packets of oatmeal and I will dump some granola in here. You could put other dried fruit, like blueberries or whatever you would like to fill this out. But I will put this in a packet, then I can cook it hot or cold if I want to. And I'll put a little extra powdered milk, and that is my breakfast. And that's a pretty inexpensive meal that is very filling and easy to cook. And along with the breakfast, I'll always have breakfast essentials. So this is 2 packs of breakfast essentials with some powdered milk. And this may sound odd to a lot of people, but I don't drink coffee. I never have, don't like the taste of it. So I don't need coffee on the trail, but I would like some type of drink with my breakfast, and that is where I use breakfast essentials. And again, that will give me a lot of calories to help start off my day. So I like having the breakfast essentials and the oatmeal with the granola. That's really a good breakfast for me. Another thing I'll bring is just a Cliff Bar. I call this second breakfast. If it's in the middle of the morning, not quite lunch, I like to kind of eat a little bit throughout the day. And so I'll bring a granola bar with me. For lunch, I don't cook a meal during lunchtime. I'll generally have some type of, I call it a sandwich, but it's really just tortillas. And I love putting things on tortillas. I've put peanut butter and honey, or peanut butter and jelly, or whatever it is you want to put on your tortilla. Makes for an easy, pretty inexpensive meal. And for this trip, I'm bringing salami. Salami is one of those meats that doesn't have to be refrigerated, so it'll give me some protein for my lunch. Sometimes I'll bring some sharp cheddar to go along with that and cut it up. And I'll also like bringing these little mayonnaise packets. And I typically find these at Chick-fil-A on the counter on the side. I'll grab me some mayonnaise packets for my backpacking trip. A new thing that I'm trying out I'm going to try it for lunch, is this smoothie. Now I saw a YouTuber, her name was Hungry Hiker, and she talked about these Kenko smoothies. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna try that out. Again, I like having a flavored drink with my meal. So I thought, well, let me try out this smoothie. I only have one lunch, so let me try this out and see if this is something I would like with my lunch. And I'm gonna add some milk to it. And so I'll pour this into my water bottle, and that'll be my drink for lunchtime. So I'm looking forward to that. And speaking of powdered drinks, another thing that I'll bring with me is liquid IV. And I love this stuff. This is really tasty. And it gives me electrolytes. So I don't want to just drink water throughout the day, especially if I'm climbing big mountain passes. I like to have some electrolytes in me. So I will carry one of these for each day of my trip. So I'll do that. Now for dinner, Another inexpensive meal that I'm going to take with me on this one is couscous. You know, it has its own powder in here. I put a couple more of those olive oil packets in there. And this is a really tasty meal. And on top of that, I'm going to add some grilled chicken. And once I found some, you know, shelf-stable chicken like Tyson or Sunkist, I loved adding these to my meals. And, you know, so other expensive things would be like, instead of just couscous, you know, I'd put that chicken in instant rice or instant mashed potatoes, or I've tried stovetop stuffing. And all of those make for a great feeling meal, pretty inexpensive and really tasty. So I like bringing some type of easy meal that I can cook, along with, again, another flavor packet for my dinner. So that is my dinner for day 2. Now my final day, you know, I'm expected to be at my truck before lunch, so I really only need breakfast. So again, I've got my granola and my oatmeal here for a nice fill-in package. Another, you know, day for breakfast essentials, that'll get me going. I've got another Cliff Bar here for second breakfast. And like I said, I'll bring another liquid IV with me on the trip. And that should get me to the truck fairly easily. Another thing that I'm bringing for a snack, and this is the first time, is these are dried fruit, soft, juicy mango. And this may also sound weird, but I had never been to Trader Joe's until last night with my wife. And I was pretty impressed with some of the prices they have. Like the trail mix that I bought there was fairly inexpensive compared to what you can find at a grocery store. And this I thought was ridiculously low. Again, I'm not a connoisseur of dried fruit, but this costs $2.29. And I think when I try to find like dried blueberries, which is something I really love, or dried strawberries, it's like $5, $6, $8. So when I saw this for $2.29, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna give this a try. Give me a little calories, something tasty and sweet to eat on the trail, and it'll be a good snack. So I'm gonna bring this along as well. And that really, I mean, these are all the meals that I'm gonna take. Those are the inexpensive food items that I'm gonna bring. And so you can really, you know, you don't have to buy the $10, $12, $15, you know, Mountain House meals and backpacker pantry and all those ones. You can make good tasting meals that are relatively inexpensive for your trip, and you can enjoy that. Now let me talk about these freezer bags. So these aren't just Ziploc bags that I have here. These are freezer bags, and you'll see this for my breakfast, and you'll see it for like my dinners. Anytime I cook a meal where I'm gonna have boiling water, I'm gonna use a freezer bag. Because what I do is I don't cook in my pot. And there's a couple reasons for that, you know. But the main one is I just don't want to clean up my pot. I really try to minimize my chores around a campsite and make things as easy as possible. So I saw, this was several years ago, I saw somebody cooking in a freezer bag. And I was like, oh, I love that idea. And so what I do is I will, you know, let me pull out I've got my little koozie here. I've got my pot, and that's my spoon and my stove. And you see, I have a small little 550 milliliter pot. And really, I can get away with a small pot because all I'm doing is boiling 8 to 12 ounces, really, is kind of what I do. And I'm only boiling that in here. And I can do that easily with this small stove. That's the BRS, less than 1 ounce. I hear that, oh, it's not the most fuel efficient. Well, I'm only boiling water for a minute, a couple of minutes, and I have boiling water. And then what I'll do is, you know, I'll pour that boiling water in here, and then I'll seal it off, and then I'll put it into my koozie. And then I'll just let it, and then I'll let it cook. And the reason I like this is that once I'm done, my pot is clean. I just boiled water in it. And so I don't have to do any cleanup with that except dry it off. So I really like that. And I don't use that much fuel. I generally bring one of the small propane tanks that will fit into my pot, and that will easily get me through a backpacking trip. In fact, that small propane probably will get me through 3 or 4 backpacking trips. For my JMT, I used one small propane tank for my entire trip, and I was 16 days on the trail. So I really don't use a lot of fuel because, again, I'm just boiling water. I don't have to clean my pot. And, once I finish my meal, now this becomes a trash bag for me. And I'll take one of these and I'll start just shoving all of my trash in here, to collect it and then put that in my food bag. So that's the reason I use freezer bags. And it has to be a freezer bag. If it's just a regular Ziploc bag and you pour hot water in this, it's going to melt. It's going to destroy it. But once I saw somebody pour hot water in here and then actually able to, cook their meal, it's really just rehydrating it. I was like, man, that just seems like such an easy way to go. I'm already repackaging my bags because this to me is a lot smaller than one of those big, Mountain House bags that you then have to roll up. Even the smaller ones, they're a bit bulky. So I thought this is easier to pack. It's going to be, I don't have any, clean up, any mess, and I love it. And I'll never go back to cooking in my pot. But I can understand, I'm not a foodie on the trail. So I understand that some people want to bring more elaborate food, and therefore they probably need a bigger pot and they need a better stove because they're going to cook that for maybe 5-10 minutes. I'm not sure how long that stuff takes. And I think if you're more serious into food, then this probably isn't your thing. But for me, on my backpacking trips, my meals are not, what I live for on my backpacking trips. But I do know some people, like that's part of their favorite experience is having a really good meal on the trail. That's just not me. If that is you, then yeah, you probably want a different setup. For me, I want the food that I need to have. I want tasty food to bring along. But I think I am more about just minimizing my chores at camp. And I think that's because, I can hike, 10, 12 miles. On the JMT, I was hiking 16, 20 miles. And I get to camp, I'm just tired. And so I always try to think about, what's the minimal amount of work that I can do at camp. And to me, this is the best solution for cooking at your camp and kind of minimizing those chores that you have to do. All I have left to do now is just pack everything away. And for this trip, I'm going to bring my bear bag. This is my Z-Packs bear bag. It's my lightest weight option. And so I'll put the food in there. And another thing that I do is I use an odor-proof bag, whether I'm using my bear bag or my air sack. I like this as an extra level of protection. So what I'll do is I'll start putting all this food in here. And what that does is help, minimize the chance encounters of wild animals coming into my camp. So I'll just throw everything into here for my food bag. All right. And then I would seal that up, put that into my bear bag. And now that will be good to go in the top of my backpack. Now I'll generally leave this out on the back side of my backpack so I can have easy access to it for lunch. And that's it. You know, that is kind of what I do for my meal prep and getting ready for a backpacking trip. Well, that's gonna do it for this video. Those are the things that I do when I prepare the meals that I'm gonna take out in the backcountry. You know, there are plenty of inexpensive but tasty meals that you can take out on your trips. You don't have to do the, you know, the prepackaged Mountain House meals. But I mean, those are great. I love them, you know, especially Mountain House lasagna, biscuits and gravy, beef stroganoff. Those are great meals. I have a couple that are, you know, Chad Menendez has a couple of good meals, and I love them, and I will bring them out on some trips, but that can get costly. So what I like to do is have a few inexpensive meals that I'll take with me from time to time. You also saw how I like to repackage everything. So now I can fit everything easily into my food bag, which will then easily fit into my backpack, and it'll save me a little bit of weight. So I like repackaging my food. And for me, the big game changer that makes all the difference is those freezer bags and cooking my meals. You know, then I don't have to clean my pot. I don't need extra water for cleaning my pot, and it just saves me time and energy. But you know me, I'm always on that pursuit for, you know, a better backpacking experience, especially with respect to meals. So I would love to hear your thoughts. You know, what comments do you have about, you know, inexpensive meals? How do you do your meal prep? You know, how do you cook at camp that you feel like is helpful for you on your backpacking trips? You know, I'd love to hear those. Put those in the comments below. Thanks for watching. And I know this container is maybe at a little bit of weight, but I don't want my crackers crushed, and I don't want to bring a big bag of chips. So I found this tube that will hold and kind of protect my crackers for my lunch.